one near your area, I carry you and your kids. Yeah, put a load on my head.
Well, you know, just quickly, that's my point. We go to school, we are followers. We do as we are told. We don't initiate, we don't think for ourselves, robots. We don't take responsibility. We are robots, we are educated to be robots. That is my point. We need to take responsibility for our children, for ourselves. I'm not saying you ram it down and say, that's you. I mean, I don't know what the approach is, but of course, you ask them a question and then you tell them a story about their history that says to them, that is unacceptable behaviour. You know, you're a pharaoh, that's not what you're supposed to do, but you add on top of it, because they do need the history, I think.
Are we the only exceptions then? There are exceptions to the rule.
What do you mean?
It's not everybody that's a follower, one. And I'm playing devil's advocate. I mean, there are 5, 6 people in this room discussing something that's dear to them. And we know that there has to be another way. I don't think there's anything unique in that. And a lot of what NABS Week has been about is getting the collective, getting people to muster, to come and share the same thoughts. Disagree if you like, but at least be in a forum where we can discuss it. So I don't think there's anything unique in that. What we need to find is a way to bring more of the exceptions. It's not a rarity. That there are out there. We've already talked about fragmented organizations that are trying to do a job. We need to get those together in a room, much like this forum, and have this discussion and move it on. I don't know that we are all followers. I wouldn't count anybody in here as a follower. So there are people that know that there's a job to do, and that's only to argue the difference. I don't think that we are all robots, and obviously most of us have gone through that school system that we're talking about, so we can make it.
Let me see if I can merge both schools of thought before I bring in David, because I know David does a lot of work in the community on the ground, very much like Sheggs in terms of seeing the reality relative to the theory and the history. And one of the things I find in marrying both schools of thought is that the principle is self-identity. It's the method that's used that's important.
Yes.
So for instance, 30, 40 years ago, you would have one television that may have been black and white with a dial. Now you have Sky with remote control. Not advertising for Sky, we have digital channels with remote control. You have a TV on your cell phone. So the principle is you're still watching television, but the format has changed. Could it be, therefore, that we need to look at modern day approaches to telling the same story? Because when you have a young child, for example, who sees a drug dealer driving a particular kind of car, or a celebrity living a certain lifestyle, they aspire to that lifestyle. Full stop, they want this. Now, if we then take them to a museum and say, this is you, they will say, yeah, that was me. That's the whole point. It was me. Was. What about now? So in marrying the two, could it be that we just need to find a dual approach, right? Because people learn differently. At the same time, refine the methods that we use in modern day society in 2013. Could that be the issue?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because the first event we had during the National Black Supplementary Schools Week 2013 was hip hop and science.
Yes.
Because our children, you know, most children will find science boring. Even just the word science, they find boring. They see no excitement in science. But the simple fact is, science is every day and part of every single person's life. Even if you don't live in an inner city, in a country, you know, astrology, geography, everything, science is part of everybody's life. But you mentioned science and it's, oh, that's boring. It's probably because of the way it's taught. But what we did, we had a system where we had hip hop and science. When most of our children, they love hip hop, and they feel part of hip hop. And when we mixed the two, they saw that, you know, the science is part of their lives. And the music is part of their lives, and we married the two. It's like you said, we need to marry the things that the children love and with the information that they need.
Speak the language that they know.
Yes.
Yeah. I think technology is moving very quickly, and so we have to be creative. You know, with your storytelling, I would imagine you're gonna need to be creative with that to keep it alive and keep children interesting. You know, I was doing a presentation on Monday and I was saying to the young people, you know, one of the young ladies asked me if I had a job that I could give her, and I was like, well, I haven't really got a job for you, but, you know, what's your passion? Do your passion. These children are born with technology literally in their hand, and so we need to, as educators, know how to use that to educate them, but we need to be encouraging them to also use that to make industries that they can thrive in for themselves. I was saying to them that, look, I'm not on my game as much as I should be. If I was on my game, I'd have had a picture of them, I'd have put it on Twitter, which would have in turn put it on Facebook, and everyone would have known that I was with this young group of people. And I knew I should have done it, but I'm a little bit older, and I'm a little bit behind. But we've got to use that same way to educate them, telling them some of these stories about our history, but in a creative way. That they really want to be involved, they want to know more. So, and I think also what we have to acknowledge is that we do need to have our own. We have to have our own institutions.
Definitely.
What we need, the only thing I think we need to be careful of when we have our own institutions is about still educating our children how to box clever. So I sit here today dressed like this, but equally if I was in my barber shop on a Saturday, I wouldn't look anything like this and I wouldn't talk like this.
You have your skirt on, wouldn't you?
Oh, there you go. My high heels and all of it. Alright?
Nothing wrong with it.
There you go. So we've got to, what I worry about with having our own is that we don't go too. You can never know too much about yourself, sure. But we need to keep also in mind that our children need to be able to be in the office with a different set of people and know how to talk and get on when you're in the office. And integrate, but just to speak the language when necessary. All right. The other thing is that I think that how do I put it? These systems, they're business. It's business. These systems are here not to change our children, but to contain our children. So if they contain us, then they keep making money. The business keeps rolling. And that's why it's even more important that we have to have our own, because we're about change. All of us in here are about change. These institutions, these referral units are not about change, they're about containment and about business. And, you know, weary of the conversation we had before, about not saying too much, but yes, it's a business. And we have, and that's why it's so important, because we're all passionate about what we do, because we want to see a change. And we can't expect that from what's out there. But we can only expect that from what we can create and do.
Well put.
Yes, I agree with that totally. And to me, it's back to what the template is. Because once we know what the template is, then we know what we're working to. We know what our aim is. We know what our objective is. And it's very much about the accountability and the responsibility, and not to be, for us to be constantly looking outside for other people to be the educators, the trainers, the nurturers of our children. As parents and as spiritual parents, shall we say, within our community, that is our responsibility. And I think as well, in terms of the educational part, like the stories from our elders, use the technology so that that information can be put in, so our children can get to know about those key proverbs and, you know, the little stories that we're told, and looking for more creative ways of teaching maths. And if it means you've got to use bits of rhythm and whatever and sing a few songs to the children, younger, older, or whatever, then fine. Because then you'll find that there'll be more interest. Instead of the straightforward we're learning stuff and it's like, oh God, this is so boring. Or the children are not getting it for whatever reason. And it's because the way that they're learning is different, and as we know, there's different forms of learning. So it's like, we know that as a people we're very rhythmic. And if what's been given to us is dry, lack of rhythm, it's like, well, what's this? This is dry, this is boring. And we're living in a society which is very well, it kind of appears to be this instant gratification, and if something doesn't happen quickly, then it's a waste of time and it's no good. But it's about, you know, teaching our children the value in sowing the seed. That if you take the time to water it, nurture it, and then when you see the shoots come out, and just seeing the excitement of something actually developing and growing, creating that excitement in everything that we do on the various different levels, and trying to get away from this old idea of educating your children. Or we were constantly told as we were growing up, you know, get yourself a good education so you can get yourself a good job. How about get those educational qualifications, so we say, so that we can be building ourselves some beautiful businesses, positive businesses. Instead of, you know, and every time we're seeing ourselves, we see positive images of ourselves. You know, we want our young princes and princesses to be seeing pure positivity, not negativity. I'll leave it there.
We are having a very dynamic discussion here just now, and as another panelist just joined us, I just want to welcome you, kind sir, and would you please grace us with your name and just a brief line or two about yourself, organization, or whatever.
Greetings everyone, my name is Belis Gudu, and I'm a member of the 100 Black Men. Also, yes, I'm a member of the 100 Black Men of London. I'm also a member of the Lewisham Black Fathers Support Group, also a member of the Luton Black Men Community Group, and a few other groups as well. My main activities is mentoring in the community and working with children, working with adults, and trying to provide some of the solutions for the future. And as this lady was mentioning there, you know, some things he's just talking about, I talk to my children and other children on a regular basis, because it's all about, them upskilling themselves as much as possible, not just about academia, but learning all the different life skills that are necessary to improve their lot in this life.
Thank you so much for that, Belis. Because the thing is, as we come here from different perspectives to the same issue, and as in the same way that we work in harmony, very much like a tree, if you will, the roots are there, the aim is the same, but the branches tie into the root. So there is congruence, there is agreement, there is some level of coordination in terms of what we want to achieve, but the methodology is different. My question is this: with all of the history, with all of the tools at our disposal, in the UK specifically, why is there still an issue with the education of, being culturally specific, with the education of black children? Is it really an excuse to say that there are insufficient skill sets among us, no access to certain facilities, or is it to do with the will to make things happen? Or is it none of the above? Because there must be a reason why there hasn't been relatively more progress based on what we're discussing. Bevis?
I think it's down to parent participation, pure and simple. If the parents were fully engaged, also the wider family, that would help the situation significantly. A lot of the children out there are being naughty or bad for whatever reason, because they need help, guidance, assistance, and the adults that are in this community are not there to support them. The reason why I think a lot of the kids on the streets are behaving badly is because we haven't created the organisations, the institutions, the support networks for them, and they're only acting up as a result of that. So if the children out there see that other children are getting a certain way in life because they have certain natural support systems in place, then they feel a way because they don't have those same natural support systems in place too for them. So I think it's down to the parenting and also the village as a community working together.
So there was a discussion about men and nurturing. So, and there was the conversation that men didn't nurture enough, they didn't love enough, and I go out and I put food on the table. I don't need to say I love you. That conversation is a conversation that comes up regularly.
Yes.
So you mentioned nurturing plants, herbs, food. Well, I'm mentioning food and herbs and growing.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm saying, men, if you don't want to say I love you to your children, or you're struggling in terms of nurturing, plant a seed with your child and nurture that seed with your child and show your child how loving you can be, and by doing it with your child, you also nurture your child's mind. That's something that we can all do, but if the men are feeling like, oh, I don't really know how to nurture because my dad didn't nurture, so I don't have that role, then those sort of things that we can do, because we need to know how to grow, we need to remember how to farm, we need to take control of our food and how it grows. You know, he who controls the food controls the world, and it's also a way of teaching on life skills. I mean, what's more important than knowing how to grow food? If you can grow food, you'll always eat.
Greetings. On the back of that, I was just kind of thinking, you know, how beautiful and how simple the imagery of what you just said is, you know, taking the time out with your children and doing something as basic as, you know, taking the time to grow a seed.
Yes.
Think of how, on a bigger scale, the long-term impact that that's actually going to have on the child. That my mummy or my daddy took the time out to spend this time with me, and you know they began to grow the seed with me, and oh my goodness, look at the seed now. And we went back at so many periods within that time, and we took some photographs, and we did this and we did that. You know, it's about not taking those, what might seem like small things, for granted. You know, the time that we have is very, very precious. And we have to remember that time is something that's actually borrowed, it's not guaranteed. What we've got here today is today. We don't know if we're going to see tomorrow. And for us to really cherish the moments that we have and make the most of it. And, you know, make our children see how special they are in our lives. But also in terms of, you know, what kind of images are they what images have they got for themselves in the future? What is it that they want to develop into? What are the kind of qualities that they think that they need to engender within themselves in order to be the best possible men and women out there? You know, these are the key things that can be missing sometimes, because sometimes we can tend to be looking outside of ourselves, and because we are looking outside of ourselves, we get up in the morning sometimes and we hate what we see in the mirror. And we spend a lot of time trying to change what it is that the Creator naturally gave to us. And that in itself is very, very destructive. We live in an environment that doesn't say that being African is beautiful. We go into the supermarket on a daily basis and we don't see positive images of ourselves on the magazine stands or on the newspapers. Something happens and it's like, oh my gosh, I hope it isn't one of us. And if it is, it can be a case, but it can be a case of, you see, I knew those people were like that. Or something happens and, you know, it might be neighbours and something negative will be shown on the media. It won't be something positive. You know, so it's always about challenging these things over and over again. And it's back to what is our frame of reference? Because if our frame of reference is always a positive image of ourselves, then when things happen, we will be looking at things and questioning them from a positive mindset rather than from a negative one.
Coming to you now.
For everything that's just been said, I would just like to have an opposite opinion to that, because it seems like they were searching questions as opposed to actual statements. Everything that just been mentioned by yourself and sister. So I would like to reiterate what I said at our first forum, is that as far as nurturing goes, when I've been there, it's been the proudest moment of my life. And when I haven't been there, I'm still upset by it today. So I think by leading by example, and the reference I made, I saw most of my children's first step, their first teeth, their first word. And it's something that I know that I can always be. I mean, some dads, even though they've been there, will say, oh, I missed the first step, oh, little Junior or little Sally or whoever, and I've missed it. I can proudly say that I've seen that for most of my children. And when you miss it, you'll feel it. The life is not a guarantee, and so we have to, in the nurturing process, be there as much as we possibly can. I can't put it any more simple than that. And I would like to also suggest that we are doing it. We may not get the pats on the back. Some of us do look for the acknowledgement, things we discussed earlier. But in essence, we have to believe that it's not a new scenario, that there are people out there trying to do it, and we need to support them. And fathers, in particular, are doing it.
Yeah, it's, that statement there is good. The last bit what I just caught on when you said that we are doing it. I tell you, there's loads of workshop facilitators like myself going out doing stuff for young people. I mean, David and myself are just commentating. We have a mutual colleague, friend, you know. So, and we don't see it. That's the whole thing. And sometimes when you don't see it, then you say you're almost in turmoil. It's not happening. It's not happening. And again, I'd always say though, if you would just look or maybe ask, you know, it's there. Going back to your question about maybe why young black boys are not doing so well at school. I mean, there's two things here. Maybe something that my sister here said about the education of parents. You know, changing your way of thinking. When you talked about, you presented a lovely image as being, I saw it, I visualized it. It was great. But then I think, you know, my dad to that, you know. So it's almost like an education to parents now. Well, you have to take responsibility. As far as the school goes, where I see it is the societal image, cultural image on a black male. As soon as you hit school, you have to be cool, you have to be quick to cuss, you have to be sporty and musically inclined. And it's like we're trapped in that box. Because I know when I got, luckily though, when I was at school, I had teachers that just, look, your intellect, stop playing the joker. And I only played the joker to fit in. And so I had my siblings and I had the school teachers giving me this sense of reference that I'm above this. So I think that by the time I hit rows, I'm like, I might have done a few things, but I'm thinking, no, this really is not me. But it's combating that societal image. And we are, because there's artists like Alim Kamara, who's a spoken word artist and a griot, and he does his YouTube thing, does these African proverbs, and he'll do a little rap. We've got Akala. I was at Akala when he said, we're out here, you must come and find us and take the time, but we're out here. Because, you know, if we all wanted to change, you talked about willpower, yeah, certainly. If we all wanted to change, we said we don't like what's been playing on this station here, we could all roll up and do it.
That's right.
Or, you know, the thing is, what we can do. We know our power is so great, there's no need to feel, wow, you know, if only they do that, if only they don't do that, you know.